In the name of Jesus, there is power in the name of Jesus. There is power in the name of Jesus. Break every chain, break every chain, break every chain. Break every chain, break every chain, break every chain. There is power in the name of Jesus. Come on, you declare it. There is power.
Just want to wish those of you a pleasant good afternoon, that truly there is power in Jesus. That's where all the power is. Pleasant good afternoon to those of you tuning in live on the program Transforming Lives on Global 99.5. We're broadcasting live one more time from the studios, also via Facebook, YouTube, as well as our Zoom, Cable TV 974, on Transforming Lives on Global 99.5 every Sunday afternoon. So I just want to welcome those of you tuning in today. And we begin the show today. Just want to share for information on, I talked to you last week on Father's Day about service we had at the Department of Corrections. And I shared with you how we spent a wonderful time talking with a number of the individuals, about 100 plus men. And the sad news was that shortly after we left, about a couple hours later, as a matter of fact, actually, when I was on the show, I got a phone call informing me of the death of one of those individuals who were actually in the service last week, Sunday. So, you know, that was something to think about. It was food for thought, but nevertheless, a pleasant good afternoon today as we come to you with another broadcast. Thank those of you who are on. Thank you for sharing, for being a part of it. I say a special hello to so many of you. It's good to have you joining us, and share the Zoom link. Also let them know they can join us via Facebook or YouTube. And once again, we want to thank all of those persons who partnered with us in sponsoring the broadcast last week. It's in terms of the expenses that went along with accommodating over 150 individuals. You know, there was still the tents, tables, the chairs, the live radio broadcasts. We also fed everybody. Got some nice Johnny cake and chicken sauce, and you know, all the other expenses related. So we just want to thank those persons who participated. Also, I want to say to you today, I have 3 vouchers, something small, but it's just good to give away. So I'm sure Jackie can give one away. My brother, Pastor Williams, who's our technician, and myself. You know, even if it's just a Sunday, ice cream Sunday. But we want to use an opportunity to be able to bless persons with these vouchers, and we should have these for the next 2 or 3 weeks. You know, just something small, a token of appreciation. Each of us will throw out some question or some tell you somewhere you could win it. You know, mine will be the easiest and the simplest way, and you can WhatsApp me on 4336917 if you wish to be a part of the program. And so we now go into a 5-minute segment we call Moments with Christ with Dr. Elvie McMillan, and then Jackie will introduce our guests. Dr. McMillan, welcome on this wonderful Sunday afternoon. Dr. Mark, I see his mic is not muted.
Good afternoon.
Good evening, sir.
Well, I just want to show my loyalty to you and this great program that you carry, and also my loyalty to my good friend and mentor and family member, Brother Stanley Major.
Yes.
I'm presently in his funeral, but I will greet all on the program to say that the only hope for Brother Stanley Major is also our only hope, and that's Jesus Christ our Lord. May each of us today and every day have him as the head of our lives, and in that way, we know that everything will go well. Moments with Christ means that every day and every moment thereof in our lives, he is in control, and we depend on him. And when he is in control, he gives life eternal. That's the important thing. Have a wonderful afternoon in Jesus Christ.
Thank you very much, Dr. McMillan. Jackie, welcome, Jackie. We haven't seen each other in over a week. I don't know, I can say it publicly, you know, they say we can't live like that from Sunday to Sunday, but it's good to know you alive, I alive. Thanks you as usual, I always appreciate your support. Welcome on this wonderful Sunday afternoon, Jackie.
You have me smiling that I even forgot to unmute my mic. Well, it's wonderful to be here every Sunday. We're here, like we said, every Sunday, Dave, the same time, the same place, 4 p.m., inviting any and everyone to join us on Transforming Lives. So this topic is so big, and our guest so able and so powerful. I mean, she stands in her place. So I'm going to give you a moment to invite. Yes, that's what I said. Right now, go and call your friends, go and call your family members, go and call your enemies. Like I said, you shouldn't have any enemies, but still call them. But if by chance you do, call them, because this is the show. Our guest is able, because she knows the powerful God, is able to transform enemies into friends. Somewhere I believe that she has that ability because of the God that she knows to transform your enemies into your friends. So go, quick, 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 quick. Hurry. We have hot news, important information. And we want to give our guest all the time that is available. Last time it went so swiftly. So I'm going to just give you one more second to do that. Yeah. Call your friends. Yeah. Call your enemies. Invite them in the room. Invite them on channel 9. She's smiling. You need to see her face. I wish you were in the Zoom room. Go and invite them. We're on cable channel 974. You can catch us on global channel 9 cable, 974, global 99.5. We're on YouTube and we're on Zoom. So many mediums, so many avenues to catch the show. Transforming Lives with the one and only Dave Williams, who I'm so proud to call my host. And of course, I'm the co-host of the show. So we're talking about that taboo subject, menopause. And last week, we had our guest, and you guys, quite honestly, you must do a session too. And so you asked for it, and we delivered. So she's here in large and living colors. I'm not even going to go through any introduction. I'm going to let her tell you little bits and pieces and then get full into the subject, menopause. Over to you, the one and only Miss Patrice Stubbs. Over to you.
Your mic mute, Jackie.
Oh, okay.
No, I was telling her I wanted mine mute. Okay, she's on. Now,
Okay. Good
evening,
evening, everybody. Thank you for having me back to both of you, the host. I am enjoying what I have been doing, and it gives me real fulfillment when I hear people say they got something out of what I said and they were able to take it and it made a difference. And I give all glory to God Almighty because it is an assignment for him. And the other day I heard him say, the kingdom of heaven is at hand. And sometimes, we think our assignment from God is only if I am out there preaching in the church or on the streets, but God uses us in the different arenas. And this has been something that I have been so humbled by God Almighty. But I don't know how many of you were here the last week, but my thoughts are to just kind of go over quickly a recap of last week. Last week, we talked about menopause and what menopause is. And menopause simply is a natural transition in a woman's life when she moves from being able to reproduce to not being able to reproduce. And this has 3 stages. The 3 stages are perimenopause, menopause, and postmenopause. Now, perimenopause begins at average age 40. Anytime a woman goes into perimenopause earlier in her 30s, it's normally because there's some kind of problem going on with her body. And POI, she has some issues going on with her ovaries. Sometimes it's medically induced. She had a tubal ligation. Sometimes it's chemotherapy. But normally, perimenopause begins in the early 40s, around 40, and this is an 8 to 10 year period before a woman actually goes into menopause. And menopause, a woman does not go into menopause until she has actually stopped bleeding for 12 months. And on that day she has stopped bleeding for 12 months, she's officially in menopause. And then the afterwards is called postmenopause. And during the perimenopause, this is the time when a woman experiences a lot of symptoms because her estrogen level is doing its own thing. And the symptoms that she experiences are physical, emotional, and psychological. And unfortunately, like I said last week, most of the women in our country, 99% of them, enter the stage of their lives unprepared, untooled, and unprepared for what she would have to deal with. And so it takes her by surprise. And not only is she not prepared, her husband is not prepared. Her family is not prepared. I did an interview this week and I had a chance to sit down with 3 men. And it was interesting, the conversation with them, because one gentleman was saying, come, I need to hear from you because I believe I'm dealing with this and I don't know what's going on. The other gentleman was saying, he is at the point, I liked what he said. He said, he knew his wife all of these years, and who she is now is not who she has always been. And he said, one moment she's one way, then the next moment she actually switches. And he was saying the son came to him the other day, and he said, all he says is whatever his wife says, yes, dear, yes, dear, yes, dear. And he tells the son, he pulled up his hands like, let's work with mommy, let's work with mommy. But it affects the home. Not only the woman, it affects the home, but also it affects the workplace. And I wanted to go more into it about the workplace because I am dealing with so many women with this issue. And I realize it needs to be spoken about. But before I do go into menopause, into the workplace, I know last week some persons might have had some questions before I go on. Does anybody have a question that I need to answer before I go on, or are we good?
I think we want to hear what you have to say and leave the questions for the end because we want to hear everything.
Okay, good. Okay, then. Well, what I'm going to do now is go into menopause in the workplace. And this is a subject. I interviewed a lady this week for one of our shows, and she was a classic example of menopause in the workplace. And here's some facts. 90% of menopausal women with careers or on the job, they have a difficult time and are uncomfortable speaking about menopause because they're embarrassed to speak about it or they're concerned about how they will be handled on the job. Another fact, women age 40 to 59, they contribute significantly to the Bahamian workforce throughout their menopausal journey. And another fact, 99% of women enter menopause unaware and they become victims. And like I said, menopause, it's all it is a natural transition in a woman's life. It's not a disease. And like I said, the journey takes it from being reproductive to the end of being able to reproduce. Now, the symptoms that she experiences impacts her health, it impacts her well-being, and it impacts her role on the job. And one of the things that is so crucial, and if any of you are employers, I appeal to you. And if I'm sure many of you who are employees, you're working in the workplace. I appeal to you that support and creating a positive environment for an open environment in the workplace is needed. I had a conversation with a lady this week, and I want to share some of what she went through because I think it's so important. And I won't say where she worked, etc., and whatnot. But this lady was going through menopause, and she was having she had physical, mental, and psychological symptoms. And she had a supervisor who was always on her. And no matter how she was saying she was dealing with some issues, these issues, and the supervisor was a female, the supervisor had said to her, I don't care, just do your job, etc. It went on and it went on to a point where she said one day, she said when the supervisor would be going on, she would just hold her head or just grab a chair and just hope that she would hurry up and finish. Apparently one day it became too much, and she said she just started shaking and trembling, and she just there was so much going. She said her heart palpitations started to go crazy, sweating, and again, like I said last week, stress brings on a number of the hormonal symptoms that women experience with menopause. And literally she had a meltdown, and it got so bad that and like I said, it literally affected her psychologically. And she was saying she felt as if she moved from the chair, she would collapse. So she was grabbing onto the chair, and it got so bad that literally she had a meltdown. And her colleagues, two males had to take her down the stairs in the chair. And her other colleague was screaming at them, you did this, you caused this. She has a hormonal imbalance. Y'all wouldn't stop. And I'm telling you a story that has happened here in our country. I could tell you a lot of crazy stories. And this female, unfortunately, had a supervisor who is a female, who has no children, etc., was not going through the stage of her life. So she had no clue about this issue. So one of the things I had to do, even as I listened to her story, I had to be understanding about her supervisor. She ended up they had to take out her uterus. Her uterus was giving her a lot of problems, and it was so messed up because of what she was going through, and apparently it was happening for years. That's why her symptoms were so extreme. She literally showed me a photo. She has a photo of the uterus that came out of her body. And she explained to me that while she was going through what she was going through, the colleagues on the job were saying, oh, she always has a problem. Something's always wrong with her. She's faking. She's this, she's that. And when I listened to her story, it really got to me because I shared with you last week, I too dealt with menopause in the workplace, working with all men, not knowing how to talk to a male boss because he won't understand. And I shared last week, for those of you who weren't here, I shared where I worked in the corporate world, the only one of two females in that area. And I was in a corporate meeting, and in the back, having issues sleeping. My boss don't know. I was in an environment at the time in my home where I was the only one working. Everybody was depending on my salary. And I used to say, they have to take me off this job on a stretcher. So I felt I had to be on my job. I felt no matter what I was going through, I had to try and balance it. And I had to do the best I can. So I was in a meeting. My boss saw me sleeping or falling asleep. In the middle of the meeting, he's at the front, he yells, "Patrice, stop sleeping." Like I said, everybody turned around, was looking at me. It was extremely humiliating. And again, like I said, it was a corporate environment. It wasn't easy. And I ended up having to go to him to explain my situation. And the only reason I had any grace was because, and like my son would say, look at God, his wife was going through the same thing, dealing with anxiety. So he understood. And because, you know, that was how I was able to deal with that situation. But even during that time, I remember I never had blood pressure. My blood pressure went up. There was so many things going on. And one of the things that was hard for me to admit, I was also dealing with anxiety. It brought on a lot of anxiety because I was dealing with rejection. I was dealing with the workplace. I was dealing with what was going on with me physically. No one was able to tell me what was going on. So this lady, when she was telling me her story, I realized, my God, we really have to talk about this. I had another lady reach out to me the other day in corporate Bahamas, saying the same thing. We really need to talk about this because it is real. And as women, the stats are there to show that, you know, like me, we do what we have to do because we feel we have to do it. But what ends up happening is there is a toll that it takes on us. And research reveals that one of the things I found, and I want to share this, and a couple of research from the UK. Now, I shared the other day with someone who was interviewing me. A lot of my research comes from the UK because I've been trained as a menopausal coach under the UK system. I'm also doing a training under the US because there's a lot of my studies or research from the UK has a lot to do with Caucasian women, but with my studies with the US, it helps me to have a balance because I live in a Black community and I need to have information on Blacks, whites, Africans, everyone, Latinos, etc. But research has shown that women say they don't speak to their leaders because they don't feel that they would be taken seriously. And even though their menopausal symptoms impact performance and productivity, and it does lead to increased absence and a lower level of absenteeism. Now, here is what some of the women were saying, and this is a research about 4,000 women. And here's what they were saying why, and they gave 7 reasons. They did not talk to their bosses or do not talk to their bosses because their symptoms can be embarrassing. Like I shared last week, there's 35, there is officially 35, and some studies are showing 45. And like I said, I had a naturopathic doctor friend come here, and when we were spending some time, she was saying just before she left Texas, her and a number of doctors were together talking about it, saying they are now at 66. But women deal with the hot flashes and the night sweats. Then women also deal with things like urinary tract infections or urinary leakages, and some women urinary incontinence. Some women wet up themselves. You can imagine being on the job and you're wetting up yourself. So some women literally have to secretly go to work in Pampers or diapers, not because they want to, but they have to deal with this issue. Then you have women who are dealing with the emotional aspect of it. And like I said, menopause affects women in the brain. It's chemical because our hormones are chemicals, and they're chemical messages that send messages through our blood. And parts of our brain is affected, the part of our brain that deals with memory and focus and concentration. A number of the studies show that women who were in finance, they were really stressed out because they had to remember. And when your memory and your focus and your concentration is affected and it's beyond you, you don't have answers as to how to help yourself, it does become frustrating. Then another reason women gave was that they don't feel they know their managers well, or they don't trust sharing personal information with them. That's another big one. Then the third one was they're not sure the manager will be sympathetic, as in this lady's story I showed you. Fortunately for me, I had the opposite. I never spoke to him again about it, but he knew. And because of that incident, and I didn't want to get fired, I had to, tell him what was going on. The fourth reason was many women feel they do not know if they will be taken seriously, which is also the case here with this lady I just interviewed the other day, this week actually. And the fifth, some women say confidentiality is something they worry about. Menopause has been a taboo subject that people make fun of. And when you're going through and people are making fun, it's not the easiest thing to deal with. Number 6 was that women like me were concerned that they would be perceived as less than able to do their jobs because they're struggling with their symptoms. Sad, but true. And then the 7th reason was that women were concerned that job security or promotion will be taken away from them if it was known that they were struggling with menopause. And, I want to pause right here. And I don't know how many of you are dealing with menopause or are in the workplace, but I also want to encourage women and men to let's be a bit more sensitive when we see women from the 40s. Actually, the real severe symptoms begin to happen around 45. It starts slow in the 40s, but around 45 and beyond is when the wheel really starts to pick up because the woman is using the last of her eggs, the last of that estrogen. And so the body is also having a harder time dealing with the loss of estrogen. See, the body all this time, from puberty to this stage, has had a good flow of estrogen. And now today, it's here, tomorrow it's here. So the body is constantly having to physically do a balancing act to deal with all of the, I guess I would say, the symptoms that's going on. Now, I want to share my screen here, and let me make sure I can get this right this time. I want to share with you what women, this research, what it showed that are the top 5 effects of women in the workplace that really bother them when it comes to menopause. And so please bear with me as I pull up this screen because I really want to show you this. Share. Okay. Here are the top 5 symptoms that affect women in the workplace. And again, this is a survey, and about 4,000 women were interviewed, and this is the top 5. The first symptom that affects the fifth, coming in at number 5, was insomnia. 29.5% of the women said that insomnia affected them on the job. And like I said earlier, I gave you my story. I had a problem keeping my eyes open. Like I shared last week, my symptoms were I was not sleeping for about a year. Then I went into the 6 months, I'm sorry, the 6 weeks with under an hour of sleeping. And my brain, it affected my brain. My brain, when I closed my eyes, was acting like a TV, like a movie screen with fuzzy lines and different pictures. And I didn't know what was going on. I was afraid when this was happening to me. And again, because I was dealing with rejection, I didn't have anyone to turn to. I was so alone. I didn't know what to do. And doctors weren't helping me. And like I said, someone literally had to come in my home and take me out to help me. And I can say that's the reason why I literally am alive today. I couldn't help myself. I went from that 6 weeks, like I said, to day, then night, then day, then night, then day, then night, of just no sleep. I was wired. I was a mess. I didn't know. I wasn't functioning properly. And I had to work. But it wasn't until, I got to this point where I had to be taken, and a family member stepped in to help me and intervene. At work, you fall asleep. You can't function. You can't focus. I have a couple of ladies who told me that you just can't function. And then this lady said to me this week, they still complained at the end of the year of poor productivity. And she was complaining what was going on, but they weren't listening. Coming in at 4th place was anxiety and worry. 31.9% of these women said that worrying and anxiety affected their quality of work. When you can't sleep and you know something is wrong, you are trying to hang on by a thread. And this is why support in the workplace and from family is so important. It does affect the quality of work. Coming in at number 3 was focus and concentration. And somehow I didn't put the percentage here, but many women said that they were not as confident at making decisions because their focus wasn't what it was before menopause. And I hear this all the time as well, because you forget, because and especially women who are in leadership position, because of what's going on, they begin to doubt themselves. And it is a natural course of action when this happens. And I want to say here, I said it last week. Now, menopause, severe menopausal symptoms do not affect every woman. There are women who sail through menopause. There are women, most women will go through menopause and have hot flashes and night sweats, but it will not affect their quality of life. But we have 25% of women who experience severe symptoms. And here in the Bahamas, our numbers, and this is on the easy side. We have 3,000 women enter menopause every year in the Bahamas, over 3,000, let me say. And 25% of them experience the severe symptoms. And this is every year. So we're talking like 750 women each year deal with severe symptoms. Like I shared with that woman on the job, like I shared with myself and many I have dealt with. Then coming in at number 2 was hot flashes. 35.1% of these women say that they not only have hot flashes, but stress in the workplace triggers hot flashes, as seen with the lady who was telling me her story. So again, support in the workplace is so important, and even at home, because again, stress can trigger hot flashes. And I hear so many different stories about the way hot flashes affect these women. And then the number one was fatigue. Fatigue, fatigue, fatigue. 40.3% of these menopausal women say that because of what they're going on, fatigue comes in, and because of the menopause, and it makes them emotional, and they don't feel as strong and as confident. Unfortunately, this is the reality that we deal with in the workplace when it comes to menopause. And I shared last week, and last week was all about how menopause affects us individually, a woman individually. But I felt it important to this week talk about menopause in the workplace. I'm on a mission to educate and help everybody understand, not just the woman, but the male, but the husband, but the employer, but the colleague, and even our young people, because they are affected by menopause. Like I said, the gentleman this week, when he was telling me about when his son came to him about his mommy and the menopause, and he was like, just work with her, just work with her. But even the kids have these experiences with menopause. But with menopause in the workplace, and this is the last point, I'm going to talk about menopause in the workplace, and if we have any questions. Creating support in the work environment is so important. It's important for employees to support staff through every stage of menopause, and having early or regular follow-up conversations with staff to understand their needs can help make support and procedures, make sure that procedures are in place so that they could continue to do their job effectively, because it's a win-win situation when this happens. The second thing that can be done on the job is menopausal training for managers. One of the things that I do is, my goal is to be able to go into the workplace and have training for managers, HR managers, supervisors, all those who have people under them. And when this happens, when your managers are trained, they are more sensitive. This lady, her leaders were not sensitive at all. They thought she was faking. She had to have a meltdown on the job. And then another colleague, while she was having a meltdown and man having to help, screaming, "Your causes, your causes." You'll know she had a hormone imbalance. She kept saying it. Something like that should never have to happen. When there's a lack of love and care, just as human beings, something like that happens. And this, in my opinion, should not be. But education is important. So with the menopause training, it can give staff more confidence to talk to their managers about the effects of menopause on their work. And if they know their managers are trained to talk and listen sensitively, to find ways to give support, to have knowledge of menopause and its effect, and to know, and once the employee knows that support and guidance is offered by the organization, it makes it easier. It's a win-win, because the employer, the menopausal woman, when life is made easier or much simpler. And again, these women aren't asking, like this lady said, she wasn't asking to be spoon-fed, but she was having a challenge. She was trying to battle on her own, and she just needed some understanding. And then the fourth thing that needs to happen, and I'm advocating for, is policies. And one of the things, a part of my menopausal training is helping organizations develop policies to help staff to feel supported. And it's a good idea to have policy specifically for menopause. And this could be shared across the whole organization and be regularly reviewed, so that training and the managers have it. And having this policy can help everyone in the organization understand what menopause is and how it affects people, how it affects everyone differently, and simply what support is needed to give to the staff. And every woman is different. Sometimes for some women like me, who got up to go to work every day, you know what it is not to sleep, and sleeping under an hour and still have to show up for work. Just being able to show up, if my boss would allow me, okay, you can come to work instead of 9 o'clock, come to work 11 o'clock. You can work later and make up for it. That would have made a big difference. It would, it just would have made a big difference. And then one of the things too is support. As a coach, I'm offering myself to organizations so that there should be someone on the job trained to recognize, and I'm not saying bring on another person, but even in HR to recognize when somebody is going through menopause. Because again, not everybody understands that they are going into menopause, or sometimes their attitudes change. And a lot of these women, honestly, are leaders in organizations and have people under them. So they are affecting other people's lives. And so when we get together in love and understanding and with care, even on the job, it makes a difference. The environment is better for everybody. Productivity can remain high. Sensitivity can be there so that we're not teasing the person. And so that makes a woman goes into a shell even more so. But I don't know if there are any questions, but I wanted to really go into menopause in the workplace.
Thank you so very much. Always useful information. I just want to for a minute, it's amazing because you were talking in terms of, I love the fact that you empathize. Let me say that. I love the fact that you empathize with the managers. Because you may or may not know that recently I lost a sister, and I am still going through a period of massive mourning. She was my best friend, my everything. So I saw her every single day. So imagine we went walking every single day. So we had an amazing, she was number one in my mentoring ministry, my number one supporter. So we did lots of things together. I recognize, I was just telling someone, like, I owe some person an apology for the fact that when they were mourning, they were going, I really thought that I understood, or I understand. Like, I was really empathizing and I was really connecting. And I said some of the crazy things that now, like when people say to me, I'm like, please call the police because I'm going to get myself in trouble. Because it sounds so crazy in the moment. Like, I'm saying, like, why would you tell me that? Like, she's gone to a better place. Like, can't you feel my pain in that moment? Do you want anyone that you love? Think about it. Go to a better place. And I had to really, at this particular time, even though you love them, you want them to be with you as long as they can before they go to that next place. So the fact that you mentioned and you empathize that bosses really don't know how to relate, because I'm a boss with many staff under me. And when I went through menopause, like I said to you, I guess I was so busy working that I didn't even recognize it was menopause. I really honestly, now as crazy as that sounds, I didn't recognize it was menopause in some all the symptoms that you remember you mentioned. And I remember now I'm looking at it and I'm writing it down like, oh my goodness, she mentioned fatigue. Like,
Mm.
and that was
Yeah.
number one. And so
Yes.
you think a person like managing persons, and I'm literally expecting going through menopause that I would function at the same level, have the same energy,
Mm.
have the same expectation, or as a matter of fact, they probably have more expectation. Or
Mm.
so it's, I say all that to say, I share from my own personal file to say that the education is grossly needed. So that's number one. That's my point. But now my question:
Mm.
how receptive has managers or leaders been to your message? How receptive?
I have just began my campaign April. I have been basically for a while just working with the women. And beginning April, I really began to launch out greater than the women because I recognize and it was a mandate from God. It has been a mandate from God that it's beyond just talking and helping the women because as I deal with them, you hear the stories about the workplace and you hear the thread. It's like, because I'm the coach, I'm hearing all the stories, but nobody else is. Because I'm the coach, I'm hearing all of the stories about what these workplaces are doing and people are doing. And so I have just began the message. And just like I'm on this platform, I'm inviting you, organizations, you are part of the organization. I have a training that I would love to come in and do, where I train managers and HR managers and anyone who has staff under them, because my goal is to create this awareness. And I'm hopeful that those of you here on this Zoom, those of you who work in various environments would be the ones to take the message and request that it be done. You have HR managers, you have however it is. It is a necessary tool. And my goal is, and I'm hoping that persons be receptive and not just females, males as well, male bosses as well, be receptive and open to, let's begin to have this conversation more in the workplace and deal with it. I can't hear you. You can't hear you.
Before I go to the Zoom room and entertain further questions, just tell us, how can we reach? I want this information out there right now. How can persons contact you if they want your assistance?
Okay, you can contact, let me give you my phone and my email. The phone number is 439-3242, and I'll put it, if anybody's typing it, it's 439-3242. That's a WhatsApp and my cell phone. You can reach me like that. Or if you would like to email me, I'll give you my personal email address. It's patrice.stubbs, stubbs@gmail.com. You can reach me either way, by text, by WhatsApp, by phone, by Gmail, and we can connect there. But again, I am inviting everyone and anyone. I'm especially speaking to women. Let's get this message out, not just enjoy it and say it's true. But like I said to a group of someone who interviewed me, the only way we can change this narrative of 99% of the women entering menopause unprepared, unaware, and untooled is if we take the message, even with the man. I had a male on a show I was on say to me, well, if menopause, because he shared his experience, what he's literally going through right now with menopause with his wife. And his thing was, well, why during counseling, marriage counseling, isn't menopause a part of counseling so that the man and the woman could also be prepared for menopause? But again, this is what education is all about. You cannot blame somebody for what they do not know, whether it's on the job, whether it's the husband or the wife or the child or the colleague. But this is where education comes in, that let's talk about it.
All right. I think we have a question in the chat. Don't want to rob that person. I'm trying to get to the chat. Just 1 second. I saw a question there. Okay. So it says, has there been any legal or labor disputes? Examples, whether US or Bahamas, of wrongful firing due to menopause. So I guess he wants to know, do you know if there have been any legal or labor disputes? Example, whether in the US or the Bahamas, of wrongful firing due to menopause. Good question.
Yes. Here in the Bahamas, no. I am the first. Now, in the US and the UK, and again, I use a lot of the UK because that's where my training has been. In the UK, yes, before industrial tribunals, where cases have been won because the woman was menopausal, and not just because she was menopausal, but her symptoms were talked about. Like this lady here I just dealt with this week. She has been, she had to end up having surgery. Like I said, she had to end up having a hysterectomy because her womb was horrible. A lot of things had happened with her. And all of these things that she was going through, they didn't believe. And she actually had to say to me, her mom had to deal with her because she had to learn to release, especially her supervisor, because she ended up having an unforgiving spirit. Because during her worst time, she said she used to sit and just cry at her desk and grab her chair. And while her supervisor would be at her, and her supervisor would see her crying, grabbing her chair, and just be at her and tell her she doesn't care. You just get the job done. Or things like that. That's when we become inhumane. And that's why one of the reasons I'm talking about policies and procedures. Because again, and I will admit this, if somebody doesn't know or they're ignorant to a topic, really, even though we have something in law that says in accounts, ignorance of the law is no excuse, because they're still in effect. When people don't know, then they think you're like the lady said, they were saying she was faking. She's always said something always wrong with her. Nothing wrong with her. That's just how she's, and unfortunately, something crazy had to happen before everybody understands, oh my God, something is really wrong with her. And it's sad, but here in the Bahamas, no, we don't. And that's one of the things. There are a couple of things that for the next years I will be dealing with and petitioning for. Menopause in the school, because we do have sex education. We do talk about puberty in the schools, but we don't talk about the next half of it, which is the menopause for women, and even the andropause from that. Then again, on the job, we have to have a conversation about it because it's real. And truth be told, because of our lifestyle here in the Western part of the world, the way we eat, et cetera, which is a big trigger, it is a real factor among our women. And a lot of the things that we sweep under the rug, we can no longer sweep under.
Thank you so very much. I know we're nearing our time, a couple of minutes. I just want you to now talk about some of the things that women can do to support themselves as they go through menopause. You need this last couple of minutes.
Okay. Labor laws. Rajabain, yes, needs
Yes.
to be added to the labor law. Let me, you know what? For those of you who are interested, because like I keep saying, I can't do this alone. So I am, as I go about speaking, I say to persons, if you are interested, because there's a number of things. October is Menopause Awareness Month. October 18th is Menopause Awareness Day. And so there's a lot that I'm going to be doing and looking at doing during this time to create more awareness. But I need more women on board and men to help spread the message. There's a couple of things we want to do. There's a menopausal show we're going to have. There's a magazine, etc. So yes, we need the help. And as far as what we have to do here, I'm sorry, I got distracted reading the notes. You would ask me, I'm sorry. What women can do, first of all, as a coach, I am here. You can call me. I offer menopausal consultation and coaching to help women through the journey. I teach women about tips to help themselves. I have a menopausal awareness, menopause survival care group that you can join on Facebook. Just go on, it's free, Menopause Survival Care. That's being offered to you as well. And again, my services, you can contact me 439-3242, and I can go through, there's some things I do when I go through the coaching session with you, teaching you how to help yourself, because women can be helped. It does not have to be as severe, or they don't even have to for some women.
I just want to, I want to thank you, Patrice. Just for the radio purpose, we could continue on the Zoom, but as usual, I have to sign off for 5 o'clock for another program. So, Jackie, any final words you want to say on to our radio audience?
Basically, I just want to say that this was an important subject. I just want to repeat her number one more time, 439-3242, at her email address, patrice.stubbs, STUBBS, @gmail.com. Please reach out to her. Let's continue the discussion, because it's a very important conversation that we must have. Thank you so much. Jackie Gardner saying goodbye.
Okay, so folks, I just want to say you can join the conversation on Facebook, also on Zoom, as well as on YouTube as we sign off of the radio and cable TV 974. Well, thank you. I noticed quite a number of persons, including Pastor Swain, all the way down in Freeport and 8 Mile Rock, Grand Bahama, join us today. You've been listening to the program Transforming Lives on Global 99.5 Cable TV 974. We're also on Facebook, Zoom, YouTube. You can join us as we sign off live off the radio and cable television. My co-host, Jackie Gardner, Dave Williams, I end the way I always end, by reminding you that there's nothing more important than having a relationship with Christ, not a church nor denomination, but your personal relationship with Jesus Christ. Dave Williams, Jackie Gardner, Transforming Lives. Have a wonderful afternoon.
Bye. All right, I'm going to entertain just one more question. I know in the interest of time, I know Sunday is one of those days that you have so many things to do. So I don't know if someone else has a burning question, that they want to ask before we conclude the show.
Yes. Good evening, everyone. Lyndon Williams here. Jackie, you made a comment that I feel needs to be emphasized. You talked about your experience that you're presently going through with the passing of your bestie, your sister. Part of the challenge that we have, and this ties in directly with what we're discussing today, is that we have been cultured in the Bahamas, large part of the Caribbean, that you must be strong. To cry is a sign of weakness. You must always show strength. And so we have also been, in some cases, taught to suppress our emotions. And so we have individuals who believe that after the funeral service, you must just move on. We use phrases like that. And when I go to a home and someone has died, especially a sudden death, there are several things I do. One of them, I tell them everyone grieves differently. There's no set pattern and there's no shortcuts. Persons who seek to take shortcuts can experience difficulties years later. And I can give an experience of that where I had I wouldn't say an emotional breakdown, but I remember crying for 4 hours in 2014 over the passing of an aunt who I'd only seen twice and spoken to a few times over the phone. So I was not necessarily close to her, but one individual told me, say it might be a buildup of several things over the years. And when I reflected on it, my mom's passing and a few other persons, to me, that was the only thing that made sense. Why I was crying for 4 hours nonstop over an aunt whom I hardly knew. So that is something we need to look at. I was at a funeral Sunday gone, last Sunday, and a gentleman went at the gravesite, time to put the flowers on the casket, and he just raised his hands together and he cried out like a shout and brought it down on the casket. And I sensed that somebody was going to come to try and move him or comfort him. And I said, as the minister there, I said, that's all right, that's all right. Because I was telling him, leave him alone. That's his way of expressing his grief. His mother was 97, I think. So, leave the man alone, let him cry. And so when we become comfortable with our emotions, when we become comfortable in dealing with others' emotions, I want to close with this here. And even for men, we need to become comfortable knowing that we go through certain changes, not as dramatic as the women do. I'm over 40, over 50. And so I know if I drink too much water, my bladder's going to kick me out of bed at a certain time of the morning. That's just a natural fact. You don't have the energy that you once used to. I remember I tried running about a year ago and it felt like somebody had switched my legs. Feel as mine. But when I talk about being comfortable expressing our emotions and the changes that are going through the body, I had to assist someone, ask me to officiate, let's call it that, who had a stillborn child at about 18 or 20 weeks. And so we sat down in the funeral home, and while she was talking with the funeral director, she had a counselor there, psychologist, I'm assuming, and she talked with the funeral director. They were working on certain things. Eventually, we went to another place where there was this little basket, something you would probably put rolls in, because like I said, it's about 18 weeks, 20 weeks. And I did a simple prayer and said a few words. The psychologist or the counselor stood back as we went forward. When we finished that, we went back to the table. And I remember the funeral director making some statement to say, isn't that right, Pastor? I sensed he wanted me to say something. But I took the position, if she's the clinical psychologist trained in dealing with the human mind, hasn't said anything. I still don't know how the woman's voice sounds to this day. After being in the funeral home for over an hour, sitting at the same table with her. Like, why do I need to say anything? And that's the sort of thing she said. When they left, her counselor made her go walk through the entire thing. And so I'm simply saying this. We must be comfortable with our own emotions first, our own self-concept, who we are. And it makes us more empathetic and sympathetic to listen to others and walk through them with their story. Closing, when it comes to grief counseling, and this can apply to persons with menopause, don't feel you have to comfort the person. Sometimes just listen, just be there, just hold a hand. Sometimes cry with the individual, because there's nothing you can say, and I may not want you to say anything to me. So just listen to them, just be there. Presence is a very powerful thing. So when you talked about your experience with grief ministry and everything, that is something in the Bahamas that we are sorely lacking. We like to comfort people. Nothing wrong with crying. I tell people, cry, it's okay. And then 2 minutes later, you might be laughing. And I say, that's okay also. So everybody works through it separately. I just needed to make sure that that was understood.
Wow. That was powerful. I nothing to add to that. Thank you so much. You should see my face. Like, you shared so much the sentiments of my heart. I definitely, that's another area that definitely more work needs to be done in terms of grieving. But today it's menopause, and it's amazing, though. Going through menopause, you have a lot of people go through grieving, mourning, and all that kind of thing for different reasons. And I can't get the empathy that they need. So I'm hoping that this forum once again has been transformative for many persons. I'm so glad and I'm so encouraged by the men in the room. I thought I see male was there last time and they're back in the room. So it means that they really want to learn. And sometimes we think, hey, people don't want to learn, or no, there are persons who really, really want to learn. They want to use knowledge as power. I want to say on behalf of the show Transforming Lives, I want to say a huge thank you to our guest, Ms. Lockhart, who has been on this show. She's going to be a friend of the show. She just doesn't even understand. But she doesn't even
Anytime.
what kind of connection God was putting together then. But I really
Yeah.
believe it was a connection. You are just saying powerful, powerful pastor. Yes, powerful. Pastor Lyndon,
Yeah.
powerful input that you gave just now. Thank you so much for you guys going beyond the time. We really, really appreciate it. We appreciate your show. Once again, thank you so much to our guest presenter, Miss Patricia Lockhart. You will be back. We declare into the atmosphere.
Amen.
In the room. It was wonderful to have you.
Thank you.
Goodbye. David, your last comments as we close the Zoom room.
Well, I just to join you, Jackie, in saying thanks to our guests, thanks to yourself. Thanks for those who join us this wonderful Sunday afternoon, encouraging everybody to have a wonderful day and see you same time, same place next week, Sunday. Have a wonderful afternoon.
Yes. God bless you all.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.